Welcome back to the Billy Meier Books YouTube channel. And this morning we are going to talk about respecting the rights and the psyche of others. Today we're at the Semyazi Silver Star Center. It's May of 2025 and I'm Mike Whelan and I'm with Vivienne Legg. So, Vivienne, why not proselytize? Why not push an idea? Why not push each other or pressure each other? And why don't the Plearen make us see the information and evidence like landing in public?
So as I understand it, this is all about respecting the other person. And we had the talk before about how to respect another person. It's really about paying attention to what they are, not having preconceived ideas about what they are. So we need to appreciate that the other person has a whole world of thoughts of their own that really are none of our business. And from the thoughts come the feelings, from the feelings the state of the psyche is formed. So, for instance, just to recap, an anxious state sort of describes the state of the psyche, caused by corresponding feelings, caused by the corresponding thoughts that precede the feelings. So if we understand that the other person has their own world of thoughts, much of it in the subconscious, unconscious thoughts, it's easier to understand why we can't just come along and say, well, I've got this idea, because it might clash with those thoughts. And that's no small thing. We have to understand that that could be cause damage to that person, and in some cases cause them just to not be able to cope and have a kind of a breakdown. So it could range from just a little bit of discomfort to not coping, flipping out, as Billy likes to say. So it's a matter of noticing and realizing that we are each responsible for our own consciousness, our own development. It's not our business to interfere with somebody else's path. So it comes down to recognizing that it's, if the circumstances are all right, you can say, well, I have something you might be interested in. And if they say, I don't want to know, that's probably a cue that it's not going to fit. They have to do it in their own time, if at all. Mm-hmm. So it comes down to taking the time to appreciate what another person is, and recognizing that you are your business, they are their business. It doesn't make any logical sense to try and drive another person's path, to try and steer another person's path. So, this takes different forms, and this touches on the explanations about gavalt, which is...
What is gavalt?
Yeah, what is gavalt? and I'll have to reach for my book in a minute.
Sure.
But it comes down to things such as violence. When you push, you want to push a whole other people out of your country, that's gavalt. If I want to force you out of the room, I think that's gavalt. But if I want to persuade you, that's also gavalt. So if I'm saying, come on, Mike, this stuff is really good, you'll like it. Oh, come on, why don't you come to a meeting? That is also gavalt. It seems like I'm just being kind and I want to be good for you, and it will be good for you. But that is still a form of gavalt.
Pressuring somebody.
That's right. You can do it very subtly. You can leave the odd book around for them to find when they didn't ask for it. Because they're still going to see the title and still, it's still an invasion of their rights to their own thoughts.
And free will.
That's right. So you can it appears to be kindness, thoughtfulness, but it's not. And we have to learn to recognize why that is. What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, I had written a point about why don't the Plearen make us see information and evidence? Why don't the Plearen have a public landing? And I sort of have a personal story I wanted to tell about this one. So I was back in the mid-90s, I was in a group in California. It was the California Study Group. And we had a wonderful translator named Heidi Peters. And during this time, Contact 251 was published. It was in 95, I don't know the exact date. But you got to remember, this was way back before the Pleiadians had the Plearens. Back then, that's what we had called them. And this is actually the time when they announced that they don't come from the Pleiadians. They don't come from the
Pleiades.
Pleiades star system. So Contact 251 was really a turning point for me, because this is also when they announced that the photos and video footage they allowed Billy to take were purposeful. They purposely made those in a way that it would be controversial. There'd be no way to have 100% proof. And the short story, I'll give you the short one. We were in a meeting, and Contact 251 had been released, and Billy had faxed 18 pages. Back then we didn't have computers or anything, no internet. So Billy had faxed 18 pages of the prophecies in Contact 251 to Heidi directly. She took them in the morning and came to our meeting and translated them on the fly. So to a couple of the paragraphs I have here, I just wanted to read them because we were just shocked. This was about the photo material, and this has to do with why they don't land in public and why that was made. So this is from Contact 251, and this is Ptah speaking. In your defense, I am now able to speak officially about this and state the facts. We have carefully analyzed and evaluated the film and photo montages, as well as film trick shots, and all false and fraudulent alleged contactees or UFO observers, and found that their fake film and photo material appealed to Earth humans, especially with the so-called UFO experts who call themselves ufologists, etc., including renowned scientists. The ridiculousness of the forgeries and those who believed in them is striking, but they were extremely effective. This was the reason why we decided to execute maneuvers with our genuine flying objects, such as jerky pendulum movements and certain springy hovering movements, which do not correspond to the normal movements and flight techniques of our flying objects, but rather to the ridiculous, jerking pendulum movements and strange vibrations of the manipulated films and photos of the UFO fraudsters, liars, and charlatans. And this is the reason we chose these type of movements, is precisely because they triggered the worldwide and heated UFO controversy, which of course also brought many disadvantages for you, because you were accused of fraud and deception or charlatanism and dishonesty, and it was alleged that you were making models and photographing and filming them.
So they gave people a way of not accepting it. They could say, oh, that's ridiculous, and dismiss it,
Yes.
and thus protect their own psyche.
And their free will. So the Pleiadians have an extremely high level of respect for each person's free will, their ability to make free decisions. And the reason why they don't land in public is because that would take away your ability to decide if they're real or not. It would impinge upon your free will. So what they did, and we didn't know this until 1995, was that they specifically designed their spaceships when they were doing photo and films with Billy to go like this, to go like this, to go around the tree, to look like a pendulum. Their beam ships can go from standing still to almost light speed in a second, straight away. There's none of this, this kind of thing. And I also remember from one of the movies, I think it was Contact, I think it was, Britt Elders or Lee Elders, and one of them said, oh, what's the wobbling? He goes, oh, I think it's riding on the gravity waves. He says that in the film, because he's just speculating, right? Mm-hmm. But we learned in 1995 that these photos and films were purposely designed to be controversial. They were purposely designed not to be able to say that Billy's 100% true. Mm-hmm. And this goes to the point of their high respect for free will and free choice of human beings.
And it also touches on the importance of people working it out through their thinking. So it's not just a matter of, oh, that's true, I can see that it's true, or that's not true, I can see that it's true. Because of the controversy that caused, oh, what garbage, oh no, it's not garbage because blah, blah, blah. The conversation that had to be had, and continues, for and against, causes thoughtful people to think it through. How could that be true? And they go and they investigate and they try and work it out. And it's through the thought processes that you are able to digest it. You know, and that's when it becomes a valuable piece of information for you. It's of no use if you just, you know, Tar turns up and on the White House lawn and just steps out of the ship and says, "Hi, I'm Tar," and you know, it's so obvious that he is. Even if you could cope with that and it didn't clash with your religious views,
which the people of the world cannot cope with.
That's right. If they could cope with it, it still wouldn't be particularly useful information until they had thought about it, processed it, aligned it with their own thinking, chopped out the bits of their own thinking that don't align with it and are based on delusion or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big process. That's, you know, we're going to talk later about what this teaching has done for us, and one thing I want to touch on is how important it's been to understand and to do the hard work of sifting through all the thoughts in my world of thoughts. Because I have had so many contradictory thoughts. You know, we're capable of having contradictory thoughts to the point where we sort of seem to be insane, you know.
Yes.
And yet we sort of function. We sort of manage to function despite that. But you need time to work out all the bugs in the system. It's not going to happen overnight. There's no instant enlightenment.
Right.
The spiritual path, the so-called spiritual path, is gradual effort.
Yes.
Conscious, deliberate, sifting, processing, and that's what's necessary for this whole business about the extraterrestrials and the teaching of the truth.
Yeah.
So we need to remember that when we deal with other people.
Yeah.
It's not to say, it doesn't mean we should be afraid to ever mention it. You know, you can go to the opposite extreme and it seems like we're keeping a secret. You know, what do you do? Oh, nothing. You know, that's not called for either.
Sure.
Just don't give more than you're asked for, really, and
Yeah.
try and develop your empathy enough to perceive whether the other person is asking you. Because some people will politely say, "Oh, do tell me more," because that's how they were raised, to be polite and ask you about your interests. But meanwhile, they're blinking and, you know, scratching themselves and, you know, going, you know. You've got to look out for these things because it's important to care for each other.
Yeah. So the end of that story is, you know, Mark was with me back in 1995, and when Heidi read that, we sort of looked at each other and said, "Oh my God." You know, it's almost like I knew it. We didn't know it, but it was like,
why else?
It was all a ruse. It was all, you know, they purposely made their beam ships fly like our pendulum stuff to protect the free will decision of people. And that just shows you how much high respect they have for another, respect for the psyche of another, respect for the free will of another. I thought that was a perfect point of demonstration. They demonstrated their commitment to that respect, the respect of another.
It shows extraordinary patience,
Yes.
which of course is based on logic. Why they wouldn't do anything else because they know that it has to be that way. But,
Yeah.
you know, it seems extraordinarily patient, more than we can largely imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you want to talk a little bit more about gavalt?
Well, I found the definition.
Oh, good.
Which
Good,
is
good.
in the
It's
beginning
important.
of our translations. So
It's important because Billy uses that term a lot, and it's not translatable into English. At least a single word is in the English. So,
well, one of the reasons I don't, you know, explain it here, there, and everywhere is because I simply can't. And I'll read the definition, and I still can't understand it. You know. And we laboured over how to translate all the words. And I just want to take the opportunity to say to viewers that it's really important when you look at one of these translated books to read the glossary, read the explanations about the translation, because they are relevant to your study of this teaching. It's easy to think, oh, I don't need to look at that, I'll just read, you know. But you really do need to make the effort and at least understand it as much as you can. And like I said, I don't understand it. I've been trying to translate this text for years. But here we go, for your benefit.
great.
Gavalt. There is no English word that conveys the true meaning of the German word Gewalt. Gewalt is the brutal execution of elemental might and force, but it is far above all might and force. Gewalt exists in different and relative forms, one example being a gewalttätige Gesinnung, which is an expression from the character, personality, thoughts, feelings and emotions that shows the inclination to act with Gewalt. When human beings possess or carry out acts of Gewalt and it is not based in logic, then this usually involves violence, brutality, degradation and is terribly destructive. So
all of that for one word. Can you?
And then you have to give the different, like the verb form and things like that. And what we usually do is rephrase, so that
Rephrase a sentence.
so we don't have to use the verb.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
Thank you. That's a good explanation for Gavalt.
Mm. So that's more or less what I had to say about the psyche and protection of the rights.
Yeah. We covered this a little bit of topic. It obviously overlaps. Everything we do overlaps. But we talked about this a little bit in self-responsibility, because it's also under self-responsibility that we do not influence or pressure or try to change someone's thinking or behavior. That we have to, it's part of our self-responsibility not to do that. To as in this topic, respect the other person's psyche, respect that each person is individual, has individual experiences, has the right to think and pursue whatever they want in life, and that we have to learn to respect that and not pressure or change, and that's part of self-responsibility. Self-responsibility is part of respecting another person.
Mm. And if we want to facilitate change in others, then we have to change ourselves. And that may be an influence on the other person in
Sure.
an indirect way.
Sure. Yeah, we've talked about that before. People, they get excited about Billy Meier and the information, and they want to change the world, right? Mm-hmm. But we have to stop and say, if you want to change the world, start by changing yourself.
Mm. And there's a lot of work to do there for all of us.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered. To a large degree respecting the psyche and rights of another. Mm. Okay. Well, thank you for being with us. I'm Mike Whelan. This is Vivienne Legge, and we're in the Semjazi Silver Star Center in Switzerland of May of 2025. Thank you for joining us.